My great-aunt had died the year before. Her house was locked up in a prohibit until issue of the inheritance was settled. My father was acting as a caretaker of the property, which meant I took care of the place while my old man bought me booze with my great-aunt's money. I didn't mind. It got me out of my place and away from my old man, and it got me into a nice place to have parties and hang out with my friends. My friend Chris loved the place. I also think he needed a place to hide, somewhere away from his own house with all of his dead mother's stains lying around, right where she left them, before a sleep-deprived truck driver snuffled out of her like a candle in a store-bought birthday cake. Our big plan was to host a Halloween party. It was just for our small group of friends. Chris quickly latched onto the idea of having us scenes and spent a lot of time at the library or some at the local used bookstores researching. I told him it was no big of a deal and it was just a stupid party trick, but he insisted on getting it right. I guess Chris was messed up about his mother's death, and I should have thought about that, about why he was so concerned with contacting the dead, but he didn't talk about her very much. As I've said before, it was stupid. There were things that happened when you were 19 that stays with you. You don't think they will, but if they do, if that's the definition of haunted, I don't know what it is. I met Chris as he was walking back from the dollar store that evening. He was carrying several bags of Halloween candy, some chips, and a few bottles of soda. He climbed into my car and drove us onto the house. He dumped the candy into a large plastic bowl, and smacked my hand when I tried to fetch some. "That's for the trick-or-treaters, jerk," he said. As the afternoon faded into evening, the trick-or-treaters did show up, digging their Spider-Man and Incredible Hulk masks. I doled out the candy, while Chris ordered pizza and set up food on the counter of the kitchen table. Liz, Pete, and Sophia arrived by 8. I was excited that Sophia had shown up. I had been crushing on her for months. But about 6'4", 140, and bright red, curly hair, looked like a scarecrow that tried to dress up like Ronald McDonald. Sophia was tiny, cool, beautiful, with jet black hair and skin that had never had seen by sunlight. She was my secret reason for having the party. I didn't stand a chance, but a guy could hope, of course. Liz was Pete's longtime girlfriend. She was almost as tall as me, with a shaved head, several piercings, and full-sleeve tattoos on both arms. I'm pretty smart, but Liz was a genius. She aced every exam without trying. She was even taking college-level classes in 9th grade. We had been good friends for several years, and shared pretty much several full classes in high school, until she dropped halfway through her 12th grade. The vice principal told her in no uncertain terms that would not allow her to tattoo freak like Liz to represent as a school as a valedictorian. Liz broke the woman's jaw into pieces. That was pretty much for Liz's public education. Pete was wrecked when he walked through the door. I had been friends with Pete since we were toddlers. His mother had worked with mine at the hospital before my mother left town. I loved Pete like he was a brother. But he had several bad habits, like self-destruction on being high lists, and his nodded hello when staggered to the cabinet where my great-aunt kept her liquider, and liberated a bottle of peach schnapps. By 9, Peter had retired to the monstrosity's old red couch in the living room. A cold cloth was over his eyes, and a bucket was by his side. "Why is he overindulging?" I asked Liz, as we shoved the furniture out of the way. Chris and Sophia rolled up the large rug, exposing the hardwood floor beneath. "Failed his driver's license exam," Liz said, rolling her eyes. "Again?" Chris said, brushing his thick brown hair out of his eyes. "This is what, his 5th time to take it? I thought they would have just given it to you out of pity after 5 tries. At least he didn't vomit blueberry pancakes on the instructor's shoes like he did last time," Sophia said. The heavy old grandfather clock in the living room bonked 10 times. Chris stood up. "Okay, everyone, let's get started." Liz then tried to get Pete to join us, but he was fast asleep. Chris returned to the room carrying a large wooden box. He opened the box and had removed a small jar of salt and several candles. He motioned for all of us to sit in the circle as he poured the salt in a double ring around us. He poured another smaller double ring around just a few feet away, in front of the fireplace. Then he carefully taped down several pieces of paper onto what he had previously drawn of Germanic symbols. I took the candles and positioned them around the circles, then let them lit with my Zippo. Chris motioned for all of us to sit down within the large circle as he dimmed the lights and joined us. We took positions around the small wooden toolbox. The circle was small when Sophia sat next to me. Her knee touched mine. I tried to concentrate on something other than her perfume. Chris then folded upon the top and removed a metal bowl to which it was placed into a metal stand. He pulled some pieces of wood out from the box and put them in a bowl and lit them. He pulled a fabric shroud object from the box and placed it in front of him. The dark cloth revealed a book bound in black leather, and when Chris opened the yellowed pages, instead of being brittle, they turned into odd ease. Chris then flipped through the pages, and when he stopped, the shallow pages lay stickily open. Without a hint of curling, he began in a low chant, in sing-song rhythm while chanting. Chris then dropped the wads as he dried herbs into a bowl. Heavy, extract metal, dull yellow smoke billowed up, stinging our eyes. "Ancient spirits," Chris said, as we all started at him with rapt attention. "Ancient spirits, hear us. We be with you. Ancient spirits, hear our call. Ancient spirits, answer us. Ancient spirits, come to us. Ancient spirits, the way is open. Ancient spirits, take this offering and come to us." Chris ran a scalpel, and a scalpel that none of us had seen, across the palm of his hand. Liza recoiled in shock. The blood sizzled as it met with the flames in the bowl. "Jesus Christ!" "He's Chris," Sophia said, as she shushed her with a glare. "Ancient spirits," Chris said, "hear us. The way open is our—" The doorbell chimed. We all jumped, including Chris. The doorbell chimed again for the door, and we heard muffled voices. "Trick or treat!" Sophia huffed and rolled her eyes. "The ancient spirits are here, and they want candy. I thought you'd turn off the porch light." She stood up and walked towards the door, flipped on the porch light, and opened the door. 2 little kids were standing there, both dressed like witches, with pointy hats and green masks. They giggled as they shoved their widespread pillowcase sacks towards Sophia and yelled, "Trick or treat!" At the tops of their lungs, Sophia looked at the candy dish, then saw on the kitchen table it was empty, save for some Raptors. "Sorry kids, we're all out. That's what it means by when the porch light's off." The kids looked at each other for a moment. "Can we come inside for a minute, ma'am? My sister really has to use the bathroom." Sophia nodded, and then stood aside for the 2 pointy witches that bobbled past as the shorter pair went to the bathroom. The taller one stood near the couch, next to Pete. She said nothing and was very still. I found myself sneaking glances at her mask. It seemed far too elaborate for a child's mask, and the black pits of hid her eyes seemed to be drinking in light. Then there was a crash from the hallway leading to the bathroom. Chris and I jumped at her feet and ran to see what happened. The smaller of the 2 children kneeling at the entrance to the hallway. "I'm really sorry. I broke the mirror on the wall. My hat is too big and it must have caught the flame. I tripped and couldn't see where I was going." She tilted her head down and began to cry softly. "It's just a cheap mirror," Chris said. He extended a hand, his cut hand. I thought to myself without knowing why, and pulled her up. "It's getting late. Your parents must be worried." "Yes, it's almost midnight, sister. We should get going." We turned to see the sister lean over to Pete's sleeping form, her green mask pressed close to his ear. "What are you going to doing, Pete?" Liza asked. She then stood and walked towards the taller child. "He was sleeping," the taller witch said, shrugging. Her rubbery, green-pointed nose bobbled. "I was telling him to have sweet dreams." The 2 children left, clutching their pillowcase sacks, jostling over them as they walked down the sidewalk. I watched them go as I saw them turn the corner. I think I may have seen them both take turns licking at the smaller one's hand. We shut off the lights, bolted the front door, and relit a few candles that had gone out. Chris then picked up his book again as we rejoined and sat in the salt circle. "Ancient spirits, hear us," he cried. Ancient spirits, we call you. Ancient spirits, hear us our call. Ancient spirits, answer us. The grandfather clock begins to toll for the first of 12. Chris then sprinkled some more sage into the redly glowing metal bowl. Ancient spirits, we beseech you. A candle went out. Sophia snorted and pulled out her hand from mine. My heart stammered to stop, when I realized that she was only trying to pull the Zippo I had been fidgeting with out of my hand. She then winked and then walked over to light the candle. Another candle went out, and then another. The room was plunged into murky darkness, only lit from the flickers of the coal in the middle bowl. "Oh, okay," said Chris, with the only slight tremor to his voice. "The ancient spirits have heard our call, and they have responded." He shifted slightly, and we closed the box. On top of the box was an ornate inlay of letters on the numbers, in the style of an Ouija board. Chris drew a small white pamphlet from his shirt pocket, and beckoned for us to place our hands upon it. We moved the planchette towards a smaller board in slow circles. "Ancient spirits, are you with us?" Something then crashed in the kitchen. I made as if to get up, and Chris motioned for me to stop. "Don't leave the circle," he said. "Stay inside the circle, never break it. Nothing can harm you if you don't cross the boundary." We placed our hands back in the planchette. "Ancient spirits, are you with us?" Chris asked again, and the planchette slowly moved to the corner. Yes. The board creaked and darkened room around us. "This is too spooky, Chris," Sophia said. "It feels like something's watching us." "Oh," Sophia looked down, and twitching at the red glow of the flames. A shadow seemed to spread across Sophia's chest. She looked up at us and opened her mouth to speak. A flood of blackness flowed out of her mouth and down her chin, and she slumped forward, knocking over a metal bowl. The burning coals scattered. "Sophia!" I lunged out towards her, smoldering coal beneath under my hand, but I didn't feel it. I could only think about Sophia's beautiful hair. It was on fire. "Get the lights!" Chris yelled. Standing, he then shoved me off of Sophia out of the circle. I scrambled to my feet and I couldn't see anything in the inky blackness. Liz was screaming over and over in a wall that could have been inches away, but I felt nothing. I reached out frantically. My fingertips caught something. A sleeve of a shirt? I jerked away. There was something blinding, burning pain of my arm. I fell flat away, clutching the wound. Blood soaked through the sleeve of my shirt. I crouched low, trying to see anything. I turned around back to the circle. Liz's face and mouth and oaths of surprise. Jerked back, her slashed throat sprayed with blood across the room. It smelled like copper. I turned on the right arm out. I ran as my hand slammed onto the doorway with force. A fingernail peeled back. I dropped to my knees. When I crawled forward, my fingers met with the cold steel of the refrigerator. I flung the door open. The light flooded the kitchen, and I huddled in the corner, shaking. I could hear a rattling scream from the other room. "Chris!" I snatched a heavy cast iron frying pan from the stove. A heavy pane raised high. I stood at the side of the doorway. Blood trickled into a pool at the elbow of my shirt. I then heard a slow sight of footsteps. There was a low whispering beneath. I was paralyzed. What if it was Chris or Sophia? Light glinted off the butcher knife. I swung as hard as I could. My lips peeled back in a raucous grin. I grunted in irony. "Ah!" in the charge of the cast iron that caved in Pete's face, as if it was a Sunday morning egg. He went down an untidy heap. I swung and swung, bashing his head until it was a lumpy mess, until his body stopped twitching. Still clutching the pan, I ran for the door. It took me an hour to reach the front door. The front door couldn't have not been farther than 15 feet away. It felt like miles. As I stumbled and crawled on the floor, terrible things whispered to me, laughed at me, mocked me, and I even dim shapes scuttle as I looked. Eyes starting to strain my attackers. They darted and gouged my flesh with claws and hot, grasping hands. I flailed blindly in the dark with the frying pan, but they only laughed, and when I did reach the door, it was locked. I smashed the antique stained glass with a bow and climbed through it, lacerating my hands and arms more in the process. The police report states that Peter McAltney, a 19-year-old Caucasian male, Several priors, including vandalism, possession, was under influence of being, of controlled of substance, traces of Adderall, Efrixor, PCP, psilocybin, and certain other identified. An experience found me a psychotic break and killed several people. Interestingly, I was suspect number 1. A police officer then found me walking down the middle of the street covered in blood and bleeding from dozens of cuts. Fists clenched tightly in a cast iron pan. The police took a dim view of my story, and once it was determined that the drugs had been involved, they ignored it completely. As far as the cops were concerned, a bunch of kids took some acid on Halloween, and they played a satanic ritual. Then one went off his rocker and killed a few others. It happens every Halloween. I remained in psychiatric custody for 2 weeks. It was after I released that I was found out that the police had only recovered 3 bodies, but not 4. They never found Chris, or any trace of him. I had never gone back to that house. I think about going back every night just to take my meds that make me forget mostly and suppress the whispers that I hear in those long black hours before dawn. But sometimes I still hear them. Every year as Halloween approaches, the voices get louder, even if I'm up my dose. They tell me terrible things. They tell me it was my fault. They tell me that I was the one with the knife. Well, that, my pretties, was The Witches and the Circle, a Halloween creepypasta written by Eric Dodd. My final thoughts on the story? Well, this is actually a pretty well-made creepypasta. Like, this is involving, a group of kids, having like a Halloween party, and they decide to, do like some sort of satanic ritual, and then all of a sudden, really messed up things do happen. Like, they sometimes do things that they don't remember doing, which is exactly what happened in this story. Now, another thing I did notice too is that, one of the bodies, Chris, was not found. Now, I have a feeling Chris's body might have been possessed or something, or maybe in this case he might have died or something. There's not really much explanation to how that's the case. Like, it's not really explained much about what happened to Chris. Now, the characters in this story pretty much were, just kind of typical, people that you would see, in a, in a Halloween, in a house for Halloween or something. But I never really would expect this to be the case. Them sitting there and, worshipping some sort of spiritual demon or something. With all due honesty, it is still a really well-made story. I found this one to be flat out pretty good. I did see a couple narrators actually narrated this story, so I actually personally liked it. So that's why I decided, you know what? I'm going to give this one a go. So, I guess with that being the case and that being said, I gotta have to say this is a really awesome story. It's definitely enjoyable. I really find the concept to be interesting. The grammar of this story is pretty good. It's a good story. It's an older one. I believe it might have been I think it's a few years old. I can't really remember when this one was actually written. But this is actually a really awesome story. So I definitely gotta really say right now, it's a pretty good and awesome story. It's a really well-made story. It's well-made. It's flat out pretty good. So, I recommend giving this story a read if you want some Halloween creepypastas. This is on the regular Creepypasta Wiki. And I really recommend you go check out, some channels that have read this story. And, give it a go at it. Because this is a really well-made, awesome story. I definitely had fun reading this one. This story was flat out amazing. I definitely gotta say it's a pretty good story. There's definitely a lot of time and effort and well-made concept into it. So I gotta really say, to the author of this story, which is Eric Dodd, really amazing, really awesome work. And I really gotta say, this story is pretty awesome. I do plan to read another of your stories in the future, but I'm just not sure when that will be though. But I do plan to read them sometime when I get the opportunity. So anyways, I guess with that being said and that being the case, There were a few grammatical errors in the story, maybe just a few of them. I believe there might have been one or two of them, but I could be wrong. But I think there were parts of the story that kind of really did make sense, but at the same time, some of it just didn't really make sense at some points. I mean, some parts of it didn't really exactly make sense, but others, it just really worked out for the story. I mean, I could honestly see all this being, believably crazy. I could honestly see this being more of a horror movie concept, but it's still a really good story. So, I definitely have to say that this story was actually really fun to read. I mean, it's a pretty good concept. I like this story, and I definitely recommend people to go give this one a go if they haven't. So, anyways, with that being the case, and with that being said, this is just simply my own personal opinion on this story, and if you happen to disagree with me, that is fine too. We're all entitled to our own opinions in regards to these creepypastas, and this is just simply my own personal thoughts. I give this story a 10 out of 10. It's a really great concept. I do like this suspense of it, but this also puts me questions on what happened to the Chris character. Like, did he die? Did he escape? Whatever happened? It honestly really puts me in some questions as to what actually happened to him. But like I said, all we can do is just come up with some theory or come up with, a possibility of what could have happened to him. But despite that, I still love this story. I found this one to be quite an interesting spiritual pasta. I think if you could call it a spiritual pasta, but like I said, you guys can call it whatever. So, anyways, with that being said and that being the case, what did you guys personally think of this story? Did you all enjoy it? Did you all not? Also, what we have done personally to help make this story a lot better. Feel free to let me know what your thoughts are down in the comments below. I'm the Lion Queen. Thank you so much for watching today's episode. And if you're brand new here to this channel, be sure to leave a like, comment, and subscribe. Ring the bell for notifications when it uploads. That way you guys will not miss an upload. And as always, please roll the outro because I'm out.